So it's a simple now that Assad had a choice to transition to democracy, and he turned his back on all the promises of reform that he has presented over the last 10 years. There is no way, I think, that he will reform at this stage or lead the transition. So it's really that second part of the choice that President Obama gave him, lead transition or get out of the way. I think he has to get out of the way. And the people on the streets are now saying, down with Assad. The people want to topple the regime. We hate to leave and take your party with you. They are chanting against his brother, against his cousin, against each member of his family and telling him, you leave, you take the rest of your family with you. And it's not going to be easy. We know it's going to be bloody. We know that they are going to keep on using bloodshed and terror tactics against the revolutionaries. But so far, it's really been remarkable how committed these young revolutionaries are to the peaceful tactics. And I think, however, that without support by the international community and without the international community taking a lead and saying to Bashar al-Assad, very much like President Obama at one point told Mubarak that he needs to step down, without that kind of escalation on part of the international community and a willingness to basically try to send a delegation to Assad to convince him to leave and to show him the wisdom of actually leaving at this stage, things are really in danger of of turning into a bloody conflict. We hope not. We know the protesters are really not going to right now fall into the trap of violence. But at the same time, we don't really see any kind of wisdom on part of the current leadership in Syria that if they're left to their own devices, they would make the choice to leave. The international community has to escalate the pressures on them and demand that they leave the country as soon as possible.
You know, just quickly along those same lines, I think people are sitting here and listening to these stories of tremendous courage and wondering what can we do? What can we in the United States do to help? I think especially in Syria. What's the answer to that?
Well, I think at this stage we've seen really the current administration sort of up the ante from calling on Bashar al-Assad to reform, to be truthful to the promises he made 10 years ago when he came to power, to the point where the choice that was presented by President Obama has been very stark, either a lead transition or get out of the way. And yesterday I was, in fact, in a think tank in Carnegie in Washington, D.C. And one of the people from the State Department, Tamara Wittes, who is the head of the Middle East Partnership Initiative, she explained what the leadership means. That lead transition, it means really institute democratic reform, which will eventually lead you out of the way, so get out with dignity in a sense. The other transition, get out of the way, get out without dignity. You know, in a sense, these are the two choices. President Bashar al-Assad has to leave because he's really not president for us anymore. He is not being accepted as legitimate. However, the United States does not have the kind of leverage over Syrian affairs that they had, for instance, in the case of Egypt or Tunisia. There is no military cooperation. There are no serious economic relations that they can use to leverage Bashar al-Assad out. So if there is no cooperation with the Europeans, if there is no cooperation with regional actors like Turkey and Qatar and perhaps even a new Egyptian government, it's going to be very difficult to put the right kind of pressures on Bashar al-Assad to convince him to leave. I think what we need here, we need multilateral cooperation. We need a strategy that, on the one hand, send messages to Bashar al-Assad that he is no longer considered to be the legitimate leader of Syria and that the international community wants him out. But at the same time, messages should be sent to the Ba'ath Party leadership, to certain army generals, that they need to take a decision. They need to side with the people. And that this revolution that's being led by young protesters is really not going to stop unless they are willing to take and be on the right side of history, on the right side, on the side of the people for once in their life. I mean, it's been more than 4 decades right now under the rule of the Assad. The country has been moving from bad to worse, and from one state of isolation to another state of isolation. And I really believe that the people have made their choice now. And for a long time, the international community engaged the Assads in the hope that they can break them and wean them away from the alliance with Iran and the reliance on Iran. And now you can see the people in the street are actually shouting against Iran. They're saying, we don't want Iran, we don't want Hezbollah. They're burning the flags of Russia and China. So the reality is that the people have made a clear choice that the policies of Assad, even the foreign policies, are not desirable. They don't want these kind of policies anymore. They want a policy of openness towards the West, towards democracy. And I really believe this gives a choice to the international community, especially to the United States, to the EU, that the people are reaching out to them. They are sort of extending an arm towards the United States and saying, look, can you please now help us because we want to be on your side. So this is a golden opportunity, a historic opportunity for the Obama administration. But we have seen a lot of historical opportunities come and go in the Middle East without people taking advantage of them. And I really hope that this is not one of those opportunities. I really hope that this time the international community, the United States, will be able to take full advantage.
Thank you. Now let's... Time for questions. Raise your hand if you have a question, and we'll get to you. I think we'll get to you. Yes, we have a question over here. And we have...
Yes, hi, my name is working.
Yeah.
Samuel Tadros. I think Ahmed raised an excellent point about the idea of creating the illusion and how this leads to the actual protest. My question is actually to you, Ammar. Where do you think is the border between using this as a tool of spreading information that might not be entirely accurate in order to make people join the protest, and between maintaining credibility for you as an organization and for the protests themselves?
Let me just interject. Sam Tadros is someone that I know from Egypt who has come to the United States to study and has been very active in pushing for freedom in his country. So, yes?
This is really a very important question, and we really had to face this very early on in the Tharwa Foundation and our efforts here in the United States. I think, in a sense, we decided that considering the fact that there are no foreign journalists allowed in Syria, we have very few of them right now, considering the information blockade, our real challenge is to get correct information and accurate information. If we are going to be engaged in any kind of disinformation campaign, we will lose all credibility. Our task was to leave the disinformation to people inside Syria, and they can create rumor mongering so they can sort of defeat the authorities and create that kind of psychological warfare, because it's important, we don't deny that. But our job outside is really to get the right information to the international community and to commit ourselves to sifting every report we get from inside Syria to make sure that it's an accurate reflection of what's happening on the ground. So, because if we failed in this, we'll be really failing the entire people of Syria. We had the job of becoming not only activists, but journalists, and very honest ones at that. So at this stage, we are really committed to sifting every report, to making sure that we are providing accurate information, accurate video reportage, and even the videos that are getting from inside the country, we need to explain the context in which they are taking place so that we are giving the right information to the international community, and that informing, therefore, policymakers into sort of adopting the right decisions vis-a-vis the situation in Syria. So that kind of situation really have sort of imposed a lot of restrictions on us. I'm very happy that we have managed to sort of maintain a certain credibility with the international media, that right now when we publish a report and when people come to my website or any other affiliated website, they really realize that they are getting information that have been sifted through and information that they can rely on. And that's why we have become an important source of information on what's happening inside Syria.
And Ammar, your website is Syrian Revolution Digest, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And as you say, there are others. Because I think Americans really have a tremendous deficit of news from Syria. It's not clear to us what's going on. And in fact, this restriction on journalists, you've got to say that it's pretty effective.
It is. Unfortunately, our case, Syria is one of the most closed societies in the Arab world. They have been sort of like the North Korea of the Arab world for decades. And the Assads have really succeeded in establishing a blockade on information and of making sure that the only reports that gets out in the international media are those that praise the regime. I mean, for instance, just a couple of months before the revolution started, there was this huge article in Vogue magazine sort of about the First Lady and her sense of fashion, and it was really ridiculous that they're still at that time in Vogue where we can feel a revolution brewing, that they can come up with this kind of a report. And it was a major embarrassment, of course, to the people in Vogue, to the extent that they have pulled the article away now from their site.
Oh, so, really? I didn't know that. Okay, let's raise your hand. We're just going to collect questions in the interest of time. So do we have, okay. Yes, this gentleman here, whom I know.
Mohsen Sazegara from Bush Institute. Two questions. First,
Mohsen, just one.
Just one. Let's combine two questions together. Do you have any plan to change the tactics from street protest to other nonviolent tactics, non-cooperative tactics? Because I think that regime of Syria, like regime of Iran, they have the will to repress, to suppress the people. And not like Tunisia or Egypt, that, the army was neutral. And we think that they have started to ban this, flow of information and signal jam for TVs. So it's essential to go from street protest to other tactics. Do you have any plan for that?
That's a great question. Okay, so we'll save that question. And there are a bunch of them in the... Okay, go over here. Isn't there another microphone? Okay.
Yeah, hello, my name is Robert Peinado, and I'm a citizen here of Dallas. And first of all, it's very inspiring to listen to you all, and really, you all put your lives at risk, and that's fantastic. My concern for you all is, my family's from Mexico, and I do a lot of work in Mexico, and we had our revolution, but over 90 years ago, and we had a recent change when PRI lost power to the PAN. But we took over without having really good other systems, other parties to help us govern. And so here you all are putting your lives at risk with your compatriots, and you're doing things very, very quickly, and you'll be successful. But what's going to be there? Who's going to help govern? Look at what's happening to us right now in Mexico, and we're we're 100 years ahead of you all in this. But there's no government there. There's no experience there. There haven't been mayors to help us grow to governors to become presidents. And so that's my concern for you all here. Good luck.
Right. Very important question. Thank you. Okay, so over here, there are two questions over here, and then we'll get the answers.
Jeff Klein, and my question to the panel is, what about the use of traditional media? Do you have any experience or use of radio talk shows, television talk shows, traditional media broadcast?
Good. And thank you, Jeff Klein. Jeff Klein, somebody that I've worked with in the past who's done tremendous work in various parts of the world. We don't even need to name the parts of the world, but in promoting freedom. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes?
I'm John Atanasio. I'm Dean of SMU Dedman Law School. My question is more for Ahmad. It seems as though the revolutionaries in Egypt have sort of lost the initiative. I was in Cairo on the day of the referendum and the few days before the referendum. And the constitutional debate, which is my key interest, is something that the Military Council has totally captured with the Constitutional Declaration, which still nobody knows who drafted. If the parliament is won by the old regime, they'll be the ones drafting the new constitution. So what I wonder is, have you won the battle and lost the war? Or that's I'll put it as provocatively as I can, but why have you lost the initiative?
Okay.
Do you think you've lost the initiative?
Thank you, Dean. Okay, so let's go through these four questions. Actually, I'm not going to. I'll take them in a completely different order. The question about growing institutions, is and we heard this. I think we heard this earlier. Is Egypt and is Tunisia moving too quickly to democracy without building institutions?
Well, Tunisia has elections on the 24th of July, the elections of the Constitutional Council. So we think that having elections after 60 days is not enough. The council responsible for these elections said we have to postpone